This is it, folks. We have peaked as a community with the release of this mod. I wouldn't even call it a mod. It's a full-on game that's almost the same length as the episodes. And the best part? It's free. Keep in mind, this video will have spoilers, so don't say I didn't tell you. The premise of Entropy Zero 2 is simple. All you need to do is capture Judith Mossman. But along with that, there's quite a bit of backstory and turns and twists. We play as Bad Cop, who's shown as a simple Metro cop in a flashback sequence. He finds out that a bunch of other cops are trying to mess up his records just because they're jealous of him. We also get to find out that Bad Cop, the guy we play in the game, is actually a clone of this Metro cop. This Metro cop is Aiden Walker, and he lost his wife and his daughter was kidnapped. He never found out what happened to his daughter and was apparently shunned by society till the Combine took over the planet. He found acceptance in the Combine's methods and therefore pledged his allegiance to them. Most of the story in the levels has you catching up to Judith Mossman. You travel through places to reach her, and in between, other elements of the story start to pop up, like how there's a clone of you who's also after Mossman. While you want to capture her, he wants to kill her. He talks about how the Combine is lying to us and how there's a secret project underneath one of the excavation sites that can change everything, and it's good. The story is really good, and what I liked about it is that it doesn't try to be overtly complex like some mods try to be. All questions are asked, but all of them get answered as you play through the levels. There's not too much exposition, and the best part is how the game makes great use of the Half-Life lore to make up its own. We get to Mossman, and our clone catches up to us as well. We get Mossman to safety and go after the clone. Because we saved Judith from her, the clone is now pissed off and is planning to blow everything to smithereens. When we reach the lower parts of the facility where the clone is, we find that there's this huge generator or something that the clone has messed with, and it's definitely gonna blow up. We get in a fight with the clone, damage him, go in and out of time, shifting between the caves and the Borealis, and finally reach the Borealis itself. The clone gets killed by the advisor while he's talking to us, and now at this point, we have a choice. You see, there's multiple endings to this game, from what I understand. I managed to get one of them, but depending on what you do throughout the game, you can get a different ending. So instead of going back to the Combine, becoming their slave again, I got in a fight with the advisor and killed him. Then I proceeded to blow up these things below the ship, and well, I'm not sure what happened next. I think a portal opens up and we get sucked into it. We find ourselves flying in the abyss aboard the Borealis with a strange man standing outside. He offers to wipe the original consciousness of Aiden Walker, so no more clones can be made of us. And then we find ourselves back at the prison we were in before the Combine came along. We get sucked into another portal, and in the post-credits scene, we get tortured by the Combine. That's the ending that I got. Now, I glossed over more than half of the details because of two reasons. One, it'll make this video extremely long, and two, I want you to experience it for yourself rather than hearing some dumbfounded idiot on the internet talk about it. But overall, I really liked how this story played out. In a weird sort of way, it just almost got me the closure that I wanted from episode 3 that we never got. Sure, this is not Gordon's story, but the inclusion of Judith Mossman and the Borealis was enough to keep my brain tied to thinking this is, in a way, the community's way of showing how the story ends for the Borealis. Also, you probably must have noticed by now that I didn't talk about Wilson. Well, there's something stupid that I did in my playthrough. I forgot to take him with me. Listen, I thought he would show up again later on and that I was supposed to leave him here, but no. This is the point where you have to make a choice. You either leave him behind or take him with you. So, sorry, I guess. But Wilson's a great character though, I'll give him that. Visually speaking, the game feels very polished, and at certain times you almost forget you're playing a mod. as if this is something that Valve made themselves, because that's how much the maps feel Valve-esque, I guess. There were moments in my playthrough where I just stood still and saw places which looked beautiful. Another thing this mod nails perfectly is the atmosphere. While the actual games also have a great atmosphere to them, Easy 2 manages to create its own unique take on it. You can see color tone mapping in certain areas which instill a sense of temperature to the place, a mood. Even places that seem to be simple also have this effect, where they feel depressing and lonely. Now that's some good shit. One of the major things I noticed was the use of dynamic lighting throughout the game. Sharp shadows that cast from the light sources look ridiculously good on an engine this old, and the use of lighting in general is very good. It's perfectly used to convey emotions that can't be shown through dialogues or action sequences. There are some places where there's this effect of some 3D models looking like they came out of a retail game, but then some weapon models look Ultra HD 4K 60 FPS. It's not a bad thing or that much noticeable, but some people might find that disorienting. And speaking of weapon models, they do look great. There's some sort of shading going on or something which makes them look very much high quality than their normal counterparts, and even the new weapons fit just right in and also look amazing. The NPC models are modified versions of the retail NPC models, and that further cements the idea that this is more akin to an actual retail release rather than a mod that the community members made. There are variations of the Rebel NPCs too, like the Heavy Armor Rebel or these Jumping Rebels. The game also makes good use of post-processing effects in certain areas that don't feel overdone. Like the part at the end with the Borealis is a good example of this, or the section where you're going through a space-time continuum or something. I particularly like the outdoor maps quite a lot because, again, I love snow levels in video games, so it was a joy to go through these ones. There's also a level full of Zen infestation which is done quite well, differentiating from what other mods do. This version of Zen Flora feels much more alien in nature with all its weird and alien-y appearance. The indoor and the underground levels feel super detailed with a plethora of decals, props, varying texture usage, and moderately but well-placed lighting. In summary, I'd say this is exactly how Episode 3 would have felt and looked had Valve made it themselves. That's the biggest compliment I can give to Entropy Zero 2. Now, the gameplay is where a game either makes it or breaks it. Entropy Zero 2 makes it. The major thing that this game does right is the encounters you have with the enemies, be they rebels or aliens. When going up against enemies, it never feels like you're being overwhelmed or underwhelmed. It's balanced just right and puts up a proper challenge that leaves you satisfied once you come out victorious. There are some scenes in the game where you are intentionally told to go through the section fast, like the Zen infestation area. If you stand still here and keep on fighting, the aliens keep on spawning and keep on bum rushing you. There's a variety of rebels, including the heavy armor one or the gravity boost varying one. These are welcome additions to the game. One addition that might leave some players a bit confused is the addition of Race X aliens. It depends on whether you think Opposing Force was canon or not. But I personally like the different types of aliens, including the classic ones like the Bull Squid and the Gnomes. The first time you go up against a Gnome is really well put together and feels a bit worrying when Wilson tells you about it. The boss battle with the Clone Cop and later on the Advisor weren't that difficult, but they weren't easy either. Again, good balancing. There's also some new weapons like the pistol, the MP5K, and the Zen Grenade. They were extremely fun to use, and the Zen Grenade actually made it easier to fight the Advisor. When you throw it, it sucks everything into the portal it creates and also spawns Zen aliens. Apart from that, the usual roster is here too. There's also a vehicle section where you control a Combine APC that has a machine gun and missiles mounted on it. While I was never a fan of the way vehicles control in the Source engine, the levels is what made them worth playing. Water Hazard, Highway 17, and in this case, the snowy landscapes. The vehicle sections in this game are straightforward to go through, and never in my playthrough did I find myself stuck or frustrated by them. These maps might be humongous, but they fit well into the context. It gives it a good sense of scope and scale. Lastly, there's the squad mechanic similar to how Gordon can order around rebels. In this game, you can enlist soldiers into your squad and press the C key to move them or bring them back. Their pathfinding was a bit wonky, but that happened rarely. Overall, it's the encounters that made this game fun for me. Every time I was up against enemies, it was fast-paced, adrenaline rushing, straight up fun. Definitely lives up to the classic philosophy of run, think, shoot, live. About the audio, I don't talk about this element in most of my videos, but I guess I should here at least mention it. I don't have a lot to say about the sound effects, but the sound design overall is done very well. The weapons feel impactful and the sound effects match the thing that they're coming out of. If we talk about the music, it's not something comparable to the original Half-Life 2 soundtrack, but it definitely has personality and is well composed. In most of the places where it does play, it definitely acts like a supplement to the situation. The voice acting is a major part of the game though, specifically for characters like Bad Cop and Wilson.
Oh, fancy place. I could take a boat out for an hour or so. Rebels must be using this place. I bet they'll be back soon. Weird tech. What's all this stuff doing here?
Hey, who are you calling weird? You are the one with 2 legs.
What the hell? Who the hell are you?
Oh, I'm Wilson. I've been expecting you, you know?
You have?
Yeah, you're a clone. Said he'd make sure you'd end up here.
How do I get out of here?
The Combine filter used here is pretty good, but it had one minor setback, at least for me. It's not a negative thing, but you see, there's a bunch of cameos by different people in this, but honestly, I couldn't figure out who was who till I looked at the credits.
I got held up. Sorry. No patrol for you today. Crap duty. Great. A salesman. Man, what a shitty job. Oh yeah. It was a shitty life. I used to love ripping people off.
I mean, they all did a great job, wherever they showed up, but the only person I recognized was the Radio Rebel.
Hey, you cycloptic bastard! If there's still any gears turning up there, don't even think about following us. Have fun finding your buddy in the basement.
What?
Bad Cop, on the other hand, has great one-liners at times, and at other times it skews a bit too much towards the edgy side of things, but I guess that's just the boomer in me talking. His dialogues in general are spoken well in cutscenes, and it's his voice acting that makes him a great character to play as.
Does the ship really mean that much to them?
It contains everything they've ever wanted.
So, all this time,
I've learned alone. I saw what they're doing. Using us. We're slaves.
Wilson too had great voice acting, and I particularly liked the filter they used to make him sound like an actual aperture turret. That was nice. Too bad I forgot about him at the facility and didn't get to hear more of him.
That one's broken though, so it can't hurt anything. It's just really loud.
The science may be lost on you, Mr. Walker. In short, you have bought me time.
so, you owe me.
And for the other characters and NPCs, I honestly don't have a lot to say about, but they were good. They did good. Entropy Zero 2 is no doubt one of the best mods ever made for Half-Life 2. For me, it takes the #1 spot. The sheer amount of dedication, commitment, and polish this mod has is outstanding. It took 5 years to make this mod, and it shows. Every single moment, map, sequence, encounter is incredibly well made. A big kudos to Breadman and the team. You guys raised the bar, and we can only wait to see where the modding scene goes from here. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Skyclad for supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. You too can support the channel by clicking on the join button. It's not necessary, but any support is much appreciated. See you later.